There are many stories of guys who lose their minds when rejected, but after seeing how a woman responded to me rejecting her, she hated dogs, which is a deal breaker for me. I have to ask, guys who rejected a woman, what is the worst way someone has taken it? Story 1. Yelled at me for leading her on in front of an entire salsa dancing class and then stormed out. The full extent of our previous interaction to that point was being once partnered up with her because the instructor told us to go to the next person in the circle. Story 2. My roommate's girlfriend had a friend who wanted me badly. I was not at all attracted to her. She would try to get my roommate's girlfriend to play middle woman to try to set us up. I politely declined and said she wasn't my type. She created a Facebook note and tagged me and many of her friends, saying that it was God's plan for us to be together. I was completely weirded out by this and blocked her on Facebook. I haven't seen or heard from her since. Story 3. I rejected a coworker. She looked through my files to find my address and went to my home to see if I was married or had a live-in girlfriend. When she saw I lived by myself, she tried telling everyone at work that I must be gay. Apparently, she had been fired for something similar at her last job. Story 4. I was in a club during my first weeks in another country where I stayed for a year. As a foreigner, you can get attention just because of your accent. I was with a buddy I had just met at the student apartments where I was staying, and he started flirting with a girl who had a friend. So I acted as a good wingman and separated the friend. In the end, they were kissing and we were just staring at them. I really didn't like this girl, but she kept rubbing herself against me in a way that was kind of like twerking, but it was uncomfortable for me. In the end, she told me I could do anything to her, to which I replied for her to take it easy. She then grabbed her drink and tried to give it to me in a forceful way. I tried to leave, but she wouldn't let me, so I asked the bartender for help. He was smooth with it as he gently pulled her to the bar for a free shot and gave me the signal to run. Just when I reached the door, I could hear her screaming, "That's water!" It was hilarious, but still, what's up with some girls? Story 5. Grabbed my genitals through my pants hard enough to hurt a bit while laughing and saying how she knew I wanted it. Joke's on her, though. I was working security at the bar, and sexually assaulting someone earned her a lifetime ban. Story 6. Dated one girl for about a month in college, and through a bit of random chance she met my mom while we were dating. Mom came to visit me, the girlfriend happened to stop by, and we all went out to lunch together. She and my mom hit it off a bit and swapped numbers. Keep in mind, we were only about 3 weeks in at this point. A little over a month into the relationship, I called it off. Neither of us had done anything terrible, but I realized that we just weren't a good personality fit. She called my mom and told her that she needed to talk me into resuming the relationship. When my mom declined, she started threatening my mom, saying that she'd raised a terrible son who was emotionally assaulting innocent women like her. My mom hung up and blocked her. She found my mom on Facebook and bombarded her with messages, told her all of the depraved things I'd done with her. The relationship was actually fairly vanilla and boring, and then started claiming that I'd gotten her pregnant and said that if my mom didn't intervene, she'd never know her grandchild. Eventually, she gave up and vanished for a while. Then one day, months later, I was sitting on one of the campus lawns with another girl I'd started dating when my ex came running up screaming, "I knew it! You were cheating on me the whole time." She then went on a rant to my new girlfriend about how I was a lying, cheating person who couldn't be trusted and who would dump her the moment someone more interesting came along. To her credit, my new girlfriend looked at her and just started laughing, saying, "I can totally see why he dumped you though. You're not being reasonable." My ex got this dejected look on her face and walked off. Never saw her again after that. Story 7. She texted me about 40 to 50 times a day for several months. Sometimes it was telling me she was going to kill herself. Sometimes it was saying that she loved me. Sometimes she was saying that she hated me and to never contact her again, usually followed by more screaming about how dare I not reply. Sometimes it was nude pictures. Sometimes it was apologies for all of the above. Sometimes her brother would call me, telling me to do something because she was refusing to eat. Once she called me and told me she'd lied about being on birth control while we were dating and was actually pregnant with my child. After a while, I agreed to meet her face to face to try to resolve things. Afterwards, I walked her to a train station in my hometown where she told me that unless I had sex with her again, she would never get on the train, would follow me home, and simply refuse to leave even if it meant sitting outside my door. I told her, in quite some outrage I might add, that if she didn't get on this specific train right now, I would never, under any circumstances, speak to her ever again. I spent about 5 months absolutely certain that I was going to get a police visit for her alleging rape because she could easily have held that over me as revenge. It was not a good time. Story 8. I was at a bar having a quiet drink with my boyfriend. He went to the bathroom, and I got chatting with her while she was waiting to be served. She asked for my number, and I told her I was gay. She said, "Oh yeah? Prove it." So I planted a kiss on my boyfriend as he came back over to us. She called me disgusting and threatened to have us both beaten up by her friends. Story 9. A girl I worked with tried to hit on me at a club while I was there with my girlfriend. She showed up to work the next day crying and pleading with me, and my boss had to escort her off the premises. She didn't work there after that, but did show up a few more times to talk to me. My boss told me she was coming so I could hide out back. It was so strange. She didn't seem to understand that I was in a relationship, or she was expecting me to immediately break up with my girlfriend. Story 10. Got called gay a lot, had a false allegation that was dismissed immediately because I had already gone to the police with her texts threatening to do so. Depending on how you view it, there were at least 2 murder attempts, a stalker, and a whole lot of rumor spreading. I forgot about the 4 or 5 sexual assaults. Again, it depends on how you view it. Now that I'm writing it out, it seems insane. Story 11. In college over 35 years ago, a girl in my class kept expressing interest in me. I finally had a difficult conversation with her. She teared up, said nothing, and walked away. I felt awful for a week after because I still ran into her in class. One night, that next summer, I was at my desk in the rental house studying with some music on. It was loud, with doors and windows open because it was incredibly hot. I was by myself as everybody else was out partying. I had my head down and something felt off. I turned my head, and she was standing behind me, who knows for how long, with one of our butcher knives. I jumped out of the way, grabbed the knife and yelled, "What are you doing?" She seemed out of it with a 1,000-yard stare. She just said calmly, "They are trying to kill you and I'm here to protect you." If I'd had anything in my bladder, it would have been gone. She started crying, and I called her sister to come get her. I never heard from her again until about a year later when I received a teddy bear in the mail with nothing else. I figured it was probably from her. How did she take it, you ask? I would say, not well. Lock your doors, man. Story 12. Back in the day, a girl from school had a crush on me, I guess. We only had one class together, and I never really paid attention in high school. She saw me at the store one day and started talking about how my being in class made it tolerable, and she was so happy I was there. Of course, I apologized because I had no idea who she was, but she dismissed it like I was joking and asked me to hang out with her that night. I said no, told her I had a girlfriend, and went about my day. My girlfriend had graduated high school 3 years before, so they didn't know each other. But lo and behold, a week later, they were best friends. The girl from my class started coming over to our apartment a lot. They would go out all the time. I eventually dropped out of high school, and the girl started coming around even more, making moves on me when my girlfriend wasn't looking. I finally told my girlfriend, and she confronted her friend. She denied everything, accused me of sexual assault. Then, when that didn't work, broke into our apartment and vandalized it before destroying a whole bunch of other stuff. I never heard from her again after that, but according to Facebook, she has 4 children. I wish them all the best of luck. Story 13. She started hitting me, and I literally had to run out of the house to get away. I ran to a neighbor's house, and when I went to ring the doorbell, she bit my arm so deeply that I bled and had a visible purple mark for several months. Story 14. Made up a story that I assaulted her. Luckily, I was at the dog shelter cleaning up poop for my volunteering hours, which are needed for advanced placement classes. Once they told her she was a liar, she then said, "Oh, not him. Another person. I mixed them up." So, They literally dragged another kid out of class who shared a name with me. Lucky for him, he was at a school function that day and had plenty of witnesses. Can anyone guess what happened to her? She was class president the next year, and as an adult, she goes around giving her survivor story on her Instagram. Gotta love being a man. Story 15. She told me, I could assault you right now, and if you did anything about it, nobody would believe you, and my brothers will come after you. I'm glad it happened in a bar with cameras. I don't think her brothers would have cared, even with video evidence. Story 16. This one girl sent me a text full of reasons she misses me and followed it up with, I've never said this to anyone before, but I really want to lick your asshole. Like, damn girl, I'd be so game, but you're too irrational for me to allow this. Story 17. Does breaking up with them count? So I've had a few doozies. One stabbed me. Another said she was going to have her dad kill me and threatened to run me over as she left. Then there was the scariest of them all. She never made any threats, but I knew she was capable of violence from stories I had heard. After I broke it off with her, she showed up at my door on a rainy night at about 3 a.m. to hand me a bunch of pictures of us together where she had scratched out her face on all the pictures. I later learned she went to jail for stabbing a woman in the neck with a pencil. I feel I dodged a bullet with that one. Story 18. My roommate's girlfriend had a best friend who had a huge crush on me. I was not attracted to her, so I immediately said no thanks and tried to move on, but she wouldn't leave me alone. There were lots of calls and texts from random numbers alternately accusing me of being gay, then apologizing and asking what's wrong with her, then threatening me or saying I've probably got a small penis anyway. She thought I was allergic to peanuts, so she smeared peanut butter under the door handles of my car. She showed up where I worked and threatened a lady I was standing near. She eventually got arrested for trying to stab me at Walmart while I was talking to a police officer. Story 19. She got angry when I told her I did not want to see her again because she was a bad influence, called me weak and skinny, as she knew about my body dysmorphia, and told her friends I was just a gay kid trying to act straight. Story 20. A lot of times they will call you gay. It's funny because, as a man, if you show even a hint of anger or disappointment in being rejected, they criticize you for it. Meanwhile, when many women get rejected, they do things that, if a man were to do, would result in him facing serious consequences. Yet, this same type of woman is the first to dish out the hypocritical advice. Just learn to take rejection with a smile. Story 21. I had to get a protective order against the person I dated before I met my wife. We dated for roughly 6 months. The protective order lasted 2 years. I still hope to never see her again. Story 22. Back in 2010, I'm 5 feet 8 inches and about 70 kilograms at the time. She's 6 feet and at least 100 kilograms. I had met her out and about a few months prior only had a conversation then, nothing else. On this night out, however, she's like, "Don't leave without me," and follows me everywhere. She lives the next street over, so offers to pay for the cab. I agree, as we're friends and I've made it abundantly clear that I have a girlfriend. Accepting this was my first mistake. We get the cab back. She says, "Have a glass of water, so you're not hungover tomorrow." Accepting that was my second mistake. Once inside her place, she proceeded to lock all the windows and doors and not let me leave until we'd had sex. She didn't accept that I had a girlfriend. I must have been lying. At one point she pinned me down and sat on top of me, and remember she was a big girl and went in for the kiss. I managed to negotiate giving her a kiss in exchange for letting me leave. Then she said, "Well, you've already cheated on your girlfriend. Might as well stay." I didn't. I got out as soon as possible. Story 23. I was in a bar, and a woman offered to buy me a drink and take me back to her place. I politely declined because I was the designated driver and already had my one drink for the night in hand. B was dating someone else at the time. C was not interested in her, as she was old enough to be my mother. D wasn't really into hookups even if I was single. When I politely declined, she threw the drink she was holding in my face, took 2 more from the bar next to us and dumped them on my head, and then proceeded to try and smash a 4th drink and glass on my head. Luckily, someone had restrained her before she managed to connect the glass to my head. I'm guessing a bouncer, and she was kicked out of the bar. I was told about the last part afterward by a friend. Never heard anything more about it or her, but someone bought me some pretzels from the bar afterward, so that was cool. Thank goodness I had made it a habit to keep a change of clothes in my trunk. Story 24. I declined sex. I was sick and very drunk. She was blackout, so I wasn't interested. She threw a tantrum that ended with me outside, barefoot and shirtless, carrying her over my shoulder at 4 in the morning. The whole time, I was praying to God that no one drove by because I was in a place where it wouldn't matter if it was the police or the locals. It would be bad for me. I managed to get her back inside, but the tantrum continued. Eventually, I gave in so she would stop,